Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall.
What's up, everybody?
And Michael Reed.
How's everybody doing out there on this fine evening?
This is a golden episode because we are also joined by Hall of Fame quarterback Doug Williams, the first African-American player to win a Super Bowl, and also the vice president of player development for the Washington football team. Doug,
Thank you.
We can't thank you enough for coming on, sir. We appreciate all the work that you've put into this organization. So the first thing I have to ask you, how has the transition been of Ron Rivera with him coming into the building? You know, you've been around for a long time. What is your kind of opinion on things?
Well, first of all, Coach came in at a very opportune time, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hit. I think it kind of curtailed a lot of the things that we probably would have saw if we was able to get on the field during the off season. But since we've been in here, you can see the impact from a leadership standpoint, from an organization standpoint. We hadn't had any guys who just straggle in here being late for meeting or what have you. They're all on time and they're on point. And he's a straight shooter. He tells you like it is. He tells you what he wants. He tell you what he expects. And if you do what he says to do, there's a possibility this team gonna eventually be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was unfortunate to hear about the news of Ron Rivera's cancer diagnosis that came about on Thursday night that he told the team about. What was your initial reaction to that, Mr. Williams?
Well, you're always surprised to hear something like that, and all you can do is pray and wish for the best for him. And I can say this, that he hadn't slowed down, and hopefully is very treatable, which I think it is, and I think he feels the same way. I'm sure there's going to be some days that he may not feel up to it, but being who he is and having been an athlete and been a player and being a coach, sometimes you just got to gut it up and go do it. And I think he's going to do that, but you got to be careful because at the end of the day, you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, Mr. Williams, you know, a lot of people say, a lot of the fan base says, you know, this is the first coach that's been around since Gibbs with this kind of mentality, this kind of leader in charge here. And so let me ask you, you firsthand, you were under Gibbs and now you're working with Ron Rivera. So let me ask you, is there a similarities between the two?
Well, you know, I not being a player and looking at it from a different perspective, it's hard for me to say.
Right.
I know who Gibbs was, and you know, I'm not in a comparison because I don't know the coach. There's only one coach I know between Gibbs and him, and that was Jay Gruden. I think every coach has their own style of doing things,
Right.
and quite naturally, Ron did a great job over in Carolina. You know, going to the Super Bowl and winning 2 Coach of the Year. And I think with his own style, he does it the way he wanted done. And if you want to compare that to what Coach Gibbs was and what he did, you know, that's a different ball game.
Absolutely. Now, the brighter side of things, the Washington football team hired the first ever African-American president of their franchise. And so let me ask you, have you been able to meet Jason Wright, and what was your opinion of the hire?
Well, yesterday was his first day in the office, and he got an opportunity to talk to the team. I got an opportunity to sit down with him today and talk to him for a few minutes. And I can say this, that he has a lot of hope and a lot of things planned for this organization. I think that was probably one of the best hires that ever been done in the National Football League.
Besides you.
A guy with not only with some know-how, but with this league and diversity, that's big. You know, him and I talking, and I told him, you know, when we hired him, the first thing I thought about, to be honest with you, was Bobby Mitchell. You know, being the first African American to play here, and he said, "Don't forget yourself." You know, first African American to play in the Super Bowl here, and then him coming in, I think that in itself speaks volumes. And we got to give we got to give Dan some credit for looking at it not so much from a diversity, but he was looking for somebody that he felt like had been around football, which this guy had been a player. So he got that heartbeat of what players think and how organizations are ran. And so I think he's in a good position.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have to ask you, the fan base, you know, they kind of have a perception, this common perception of Mr. Snyder. Now, can you kind of give us an look into who Mr. Snyder is on a personal scale? Kind of give us an idea of who he truly is?
I wish I can give you the full scale of who he is, but I've learned over the last 6 years, going on 7 years of being around him, and listen to what some of the people say. Sometimes it really don't fit him. Now, what
Mm,
he's not, he don't have the Jerry Jones persona of just being out there shaking hands and being among the people. To me, Dan is a little more laid back, so people don't really know him
mm.
like I would like for them to know him.
Yeah.
So they come up with their own accolades or what they think of him or what have you. But this is a guy that I know has done some things that he don't need all the fanfare and don't bother him. He's helped people along the way, but he's a businessman and he's a shrewd businessman. So if you're a shrewd businessman, sometimes you're gonna make some decisions that people might not like, and that's
Right.
that's why he's a shrewd businessman. That's why he owns the Washington Redskins.
Right.
Redskins.
We do it. We do it all the time. So, so Dan Snyder, Dan Snyder has had a very eventful offseason, but he's also done a lot of things right. He's done a lot of. He's taken a lot of huge steps, a lot of first steps, really, for the NFL. He's been very active and very progressive. One of the big things that he did this offseason was he was helped behind drafting Chase Young. Bringing in Chase Young was so big for this fan base. I think it kind of rejuvenated us. What have you seen from Chase? Really, is that's something that people might not know about him.
Well, that was big, but that was an easy choice too.
Yeah, right, right,
Uh, I think to be able to be able to pick up a generational player
right.
like Chase Young and a guy that's right across the street from
Yeah,
where we are, I think that hometown base and the player that he is speaks volume. And at the end of the day, this guy is probably one of the most humble, physical fit, uh, tough player that you're going to see. I think we've been fortunate over the last few years bringing in some players, even
yeah,
Dwayne Haskins. They
yeah,
was teammates,
right,
and then you got Terry,
yeah.
and the young guys that we got. You look at that defensive front. I was just looking at it the other day,
It's
and
incredible.
really we have five first round picks
Yep.
across the front. When you talk about Carrick and Sweat, Chase and Payne and uh,
Jonathan Allen.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
five. And the good part about and our Niners, and
yeah.
the good part about that, those guys are young, man. I don't think neither one of them 26 yet.
Nope.
And I
No.
think and it's Carrick the one that make the age go up. He about 31.
Yeah,
You're,
so speaking of like guys like Dwayne Haskins, Chase Youngs, they're from the DMV area, Kendall Fuller. Is that something you guys in the front office kind of like we're talking about when you want to bring guys in, kind of guys that have local ties and want to kind of help the franchise going forward in the future?
I don't think it's so much tied to the area as much as the ability.
Right.
If the ability is tied to the area, that's a whole different ball game. You
Right.
want guys like Darby. Darby is from around here,
Yeah.
Mm,
but Darby is a good player. Sean Davis is from around here.
Yep.
Uh, it helps when you got guys that are talented and from the area. I think it helps the fan base. It helps them become better players because they want to play in front of the fans, people that they grew up with. So it's not so much of where they from as much as the talent they bring with them from where they from.
right. And so, Doug, you played when this organization was called the Redskins, and now they're called the Washington Football Team. So I have to get your opinion on the matter. Was it hard for you to see the name go? And do you think that they did a quality replacement? And do you see it being a short period of time replacement, or could this be something more permanent?
I think the fans. Let me put it this way. I think fans who grew up with the name uh, was probably more hurt than anything.
Mm,
As a player, players usually don't choose where they go.
mm,
They go play. But I think we look at. I know I do. I look at it from a standpoint. If the name was a slur, hey, you can remove the name. What you can't remove is the history of the guys who was playing.
mm,
And I think that's the most important thing. And that's the thing that we got to get over to the fans that the history is not going anywhere. It's not like
Right.
you're starting anew and you're sweeping everything out.
right.
You're keeping the history, and the history is the players who played. You know, uh, you get that name, the Redskin. Nobody can remember the Redskin if you take it away, and you still got Sammy Ball, you got Sonny Jurgensen, you got Art Monk, you got Gary Clark, and guys like that. You remember those. Nobody gonna remember a logo running down the field. You remember Darryl Green running that punt back.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's how we got to face this and move forward. Whatever the name going to be, I don't know. But I tell you what, there's something about that old Washington football team and that W. They got that new W and these helmets. I was standing at practice today, man, and for some reason that helmet is so clean with that
It's
number.
so nice.
It jumps out at you. I kind of
Yeah.
like it.
I love it.
I asked the equipment manager, I said, now we're going to have some all burgundy uniform that's going to be clean with that helmet, man. With
That would be
burgundy
nice.
socks on, burgundy uniform, and just some gold numbers, man, that'd be shocking. Look at me, I'm trying to dress them, right?
That's
Hey, they should be taking tips, man. That's a good
I know.
scheme.
one.
And I have to ask you, Doug, you are your former quarterback of this league. Alex Smith and his progress and his ability to work himself back onto the football field. What is your reaction to him being able to get back onto the field? And do you see him getting some playing time this season?
Number one, we got to say respect.
Yeah.
And the other part of this, I don't want to kind of compare it to the military where they give a purple heart. I think football should have a different heart. And if that's the case, Alex Smith deserved one of those hearts. I've never seen a guy who has worked as hard as he has to overcome the major injury that he had. And to watch him now, man, it's mind-boggling just to see him compete and how well he's competing. I'm sure a lot of people never thought Alex would be here at this point, but over the last couple of years, when you saw every day that he was in here working to get better, when he had some tough things to overcome, and to see him out there on that field now over the last 2 weeks, you can see the progress. And when he's had an opportunity to go in with the team, man, and just watching him move around, that in itself makes your heart flutter and have a lot more respect for who Alex Smith really is and his leadership that he brings with him, man. You can't pay for that. So whatever heart that goes with football, Alex Smith deserves one.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I can't stress that enough. Now, Mr. Williams, I have to ask you, let's just talk about some football here. Now, in regards to this team altogether, defense, there's an old saying, defense wins championships, and it looks like the defense is looking the better of the two units. The offense the last couple of days has actually been fighting back a little bit and actually hitting some strikes downfield. We all saw that one from Terry McLaurin yesterday. So let me ask you, where do you think this team is going to fall at the end of the season?
I wish I could say. I could say there's going to be a team that's going to compete. And I think that's the most important thing. We all know in this game, on any given Sunday, the ball can bounce your way. I think if you look at the papers, you're going to probably say defense is great on paper, and hopefully they're as good as advertising, which I think they would be going to be playing their heart out. But the offense, I think, is going to be a lot better than a lot of people probably give them credit for. This time of the year, when you say the defense is getting better, getting the best of the offense, I mean, you got a defense that see this offense every day.
Yep.
Right.
They kind of know the routes. They kind of know I think, this time we would have been had 2 preseason games. We would have had an opportunity to play against other people.
Yep.
But you've seen your same people over and over, and they know what you do. It's a little tough to sneak it in, but the last couple of days, offenses hit some big plays. And I think that in itself speaks volume that we got some big play capability, and I think our running back's going to be pretty good, and the offensive line is coming. They're young, but they're coming around.
Yeah, and Doug, I've listened to your previous interviews, and previously you have alluded to what Ron has asked of Dwayne during the offseason, and it kind of entitles with like being a leader and everything like that. So let me ask you, what is your opinion on Dwayne's progress thus far this offseason? Have you liked everything that he's done?
It's night and day compared to last.
Wow.
I think the confidence level of Dwayne is so high now because when he left last year, he realized he had a chance to be the guy on the football team. And I think when you look at his body of work, and I say his body of work, I'm talking about his body. You got a guy that looks like he's lost about 15 pounds. He's worked his tag off, and you can see it every day. His confidence is growing, his leadership is growing, and I think he's commanding the respect of his teammates. I think that's what a quarterback has to do, is to look for your quarterback to make plays when there ain't no plays. And in the last couple of days, he's made a couple of throws that I call arm talent. And when I'm saying what I meant by that, I'm not talking about a quarterback who just naturally throws it overhand, but I'm talking about a guy who can make his arm move and do a lot of other things and still complete the pass. And he's done a couple of those in the last couple of days, which tell you his mind is working. He's aware of the offense. He knows what people are supposed to be, and he's getting the ball there.
I love to hear that. That gets me going so much.
Music to my ears right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all we want out of Dwayne. I'm glad to see that it's going to happen, because I think this team is going to go as far as Dwayne does. Now, to finish up and wrap up this interview, Doug, I have one more question for you, and I ask this to each one of our guests that comes onto the show. This is the last question we always ask. If there was one player that you could pick that's going to progress the most under this coaching staff, under Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, and Scott Turner, who would that player be?
Wow. I mean, we got so many young players that I can pick 5 or 6 guys, man.
Let's do it.
That's a tough one, because I think with the drafting of Chase Young, I think it's going to bring the best out of Sweat.
Yep, we've heard that. Yep.
I think Dwayne going to go up. I think Jonathan and Payne and I-9, because of the way this defense is going to be built. You're talking about a defense line that had a bunch of sacks last year that didn't play this type of defense.
Right.
So, it's hard to say who's going to benefit more. And I also think somebody in the secondary, whether or not it's a corner or a safety, because what up front guy's going to do, going to pull them more pressure. So, it's hard to just pick one guy. But if I was able to pick them all, maybe I can win if I pick 4 or 5 of them.
and Sweat was a great one to pick. Doug, I really appreciate you taking the time out and coming on to the pod. This was a dream come true for us to be able to even interview and talk to you. I really appreciate it. It says a lot about you as a person.
Yeah, man.
Well, it's my pleasure to be on, and have a good day, man. I appreciate it. And Washington football team, right?
There you go.
Washington absolutely.
Hey, all right.
Absolutely. Tell Ron we hope he gets better. All right. Thank you so much for coming on, Doug. You have a great night.
Appreciate you, man. Have a great night.
All right.
How awesome was that?
That was fantastic.
What a man. He is a cool dude.
Doug Williams, cool, man.
He's the coolest guy I've ever met. Before, you guys didn't see it, but when we were on here, he had his background as his old college at Grambling State. He goes, "Hold on, I got one better for you. Hold up. Next thing you know, he switches the background, and it's Doug Williams throwing the football with the old number 17. That was the swaggiest thing I've ever seen.
I absolutely loved his reaction to when he said Redskin.
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry. But thank you so much, Doug Williams, for coming on. I can't stress enough how much it means to us to take time out of your day to be able to come on to this literal podcast and to talk Washington football. Now, that being said, a lot of stuff has transpired over the weekend since we last recorded. Ron Rivera's cancer diagnosis that we had already alluded to earlier in the pod. We are with you, Ron. On Twitter, I had said before it got released that the doctors were okay with Ron going back and coaching, doing what he's doing. At first I was like with Chad Dukes in a way where I was like, if you need to take time, dude, take your time. Like, you have proven enough to us to where, like, you don't have to, like, go through this if you don't want to. If you need to take a month or two, do your thing, man. But my heart goes out to Ron Rivera and his family, friends, loved ones, because this is a hard thing to do in the midst of chaos that this has been this offseason. What was your immediate reaction, Hall?
I mean, just shocked like everyone. I think I saw, Reed posted it in the chat, and I was like, I haven't had no like notifications pop up on my phone. That's kind of like some super breaking news. And sure enough, the good old
I'm not going to reveal my sources, Hall.
Hey, it's all good because the good old Twitterverse steered me in the right direction. And the first thing I see popped up is Adam Schefter's tweet. And I was just like, oh, man, if Adam Schefter's putting it out there, then clearly it's probably most likely 100% true.
He's my source.
I knew it.
I know.
But not yet. Like you said, we're praying for him. We're just all lucky that he caught it in the early stages and it's treatable. And I think he was saying he came up with a plan where it's going to be 35 weeks. I think like 5 times a week. So hopefully he'll be able to be out there on Sundays, given the circumstances. And I know that's what he wants. And if he's able to kind of keep going and kind of is what's going to motivate him to get through this and kind of keep fighting through this, and I'm 100% for it. And like I said, I hope he gets better as soon as possible.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the first thing that came to my head when I heard that. Oh, you're good. Yeah, beat him, Hall. The first thing that came to my head was, of course that happens to us. Like that just would. It's 2020. Expect the unexpected. But of course, it was nice to see that Ron had a plan in place. That he knows that he was realistic about it. And I think that's the most important thing. He was like, look, I know that there's going to be days where I don't feel right. He's like, there's going to be days where I don't want to go to work. And he's like, if those days come up, and I'm sure that they will, we're going to have a plan in place. We're going to have plan B, which is Jack Del Rio is going to take over. And that's where it pays to have somebody like Coach Del Rio, who has been a head coach for so long in the NFL. And just Ron Rivera's perseverance, man, just him talking about it, listening to him talk about having to tell that news to his mom after his brother had already passed of cancer is just so heartbreaking. He was like, that just really pulled at your heartstrings, you know.
He said the two people were his mom and his daughter, but two of the hardest people to tell.
And so we're all, of course, pulling for Coach Ron. Luckily, I do think that it was in the early stages. I know I was talking with Burrows on his show, and he had said that his dad was actually diagnosed with the exact same type of cancer. And what they do is they inject you with a type of fluid, a type of medication 5 days a week. And it can take a lot out of you, of course, but it's definitely treatable. So that's very good news. And if anybody can stare at cancer with blood in their eyes and say, no, it's Ron, you know? Yeah. So I think that he'll be okay.
Yeah. And it's just heartbreaking to hear, you know, it's terrible to hear that, like, he has to go through this in this moment of time. You know, it's butchering. It's terrible to hear. And speaking of, Ron today actually had a presser, and one of the things that he had talked about in his presser I took away was how he found out that he had cancer. And that was he was shaving, and he like turned his neck, he said, and he had a shooting pain in his neck, and he thought it was going to go away, and it didn't. And so then he went to the doctor, and that's how they found out, which is absolutely insane that if it wasn't for him shaving that day and turning his head like that, he wouldn't have known.
I mean, just the fact that he even went to go get it checked out. Most people, 9 times out of 10, is just be like, whatever, it is what it is. You know, it's a little sore muscle or something like that. You know?
Right. Well, that's what he said at first. He said he thought it was a muscle strain or something along those lines, and that's how he treated it. He iced it. He put some heat on it. He rested it in certain positions, and then when it didn't go away and it got a little bit worse, he was like, I guess I'm going to get this checked out now. Right. And when luckily he did, got it checked out when he did, because that, like you said, that caught it in the early stages.
Yeah, and so before we get into the pressers of players like Chase Young, for example, and Jaron Christian and Ron Rivera's presser from today, I'll give you guys a little bit of a training camp update. What's it called? Logan Thomas is continued to be a red zone threat for Dwayne Haskins. They have linked up for 4 touchdowns over the span of 2 practices or 3 days, I believe it is. And then Darby has really excelled as well. Jimmy Moreland has made a point in coming out. And then Keith Ishmael really impressed today at left guard. And then Jaron Christian has stood out a lot. And then today, Dwayne Haskins started the day 13 for 13 before an incompletion at the end of practice. So Dwayne Haskins and the offense have been really doing well so far. All right, so if we want to start getting into some pressers, let's do it, Reed.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll go ahead. We'll start off with the number 2 overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. Everybody's favorite new Redskin, Chase Young. So Chase, of course, he's been sitting out a lot recently. He hasn't been participating fully in practice with his hip flexor. He says that his hip he feels almost 100% recovered from the hip flexor. It's just something that, you know, you kind of got to take slowly because these things can be tricky. But one thing that I thought was good, he said that when he's on the sideline and when he hasn't been able to play, he's been watching other players, and when he watches other pass rushers, he watches certain things that they do. He watches their first step, their hand placement on run plays, and their overall track to the quarterback, among some other things. So I thought that was good to know that he's still sitting there, he's still learning, and he's really kind of is aware of what some of his flaws are, with the hand placement during run plays. I thought was huge. That's something that's very specific that has been brought about him, and I think that's of course amazing. You always want to see someone with this much talent working as hard as he does.
Yeah, the devil is in the details, and it just shows you the change of attitude within this organization. It takes you back to the Danny Roulier of 106.7 interview that he had with Brian Arakpo, and he asked, yeah, and he asked him one time. He said, Brian, this is the off season. What are you working on in the off season? And Brian Arakpo was like, what do you mean? What am I working on? I'm really good. What do I have to work on? And it's just completely different. This guy, Chase Young, is coming in saying his hand placement against the run is not good enough to where it needs to be compared to what Brian Arakpo's attitude was. It's a complete 180, and I'm so happy to see it out of a star player.
Yeah, I'm happy that he's standing on the sidelines, like kind of just standing around other players, kind of soaking up knowledge. He's not really just off, kind of just do.
Right.
He's actually engaged. He's really out there, probably taking mental reps, kind of like, I would do this on this play. Like you said, watching people's hands placements, kind of taking little notes from different guys. So yeah, I mean, I'm just happy that we finally have that type of worker and that type of just like that hard worker on the Washington football team. Because going back to maybe I don't know, like a London Fletcher type player that's just like, they're going to go out there and give it their all every single snap. Yep. We haven't had that here in a while. And I know it's been a lot of Alabama players coming in, and that's kind of like their motto is they're going to go out there and give their 100% every single time.
But there's no Chase Young.
Yeah, this dude is like a whole other level. Right. And yeah, I'm just excited for September 13th. He's going to go out there and probably eat Carson Wentz alive.
Yeah, I know. I'm calling it right now, man. Their left tackle, what's his face? Why can't I remember his name right now? I hate it when I do this. This always happens on the show. But he can't block Chase Young.
Jason Peters,
no. Jason Peters is playing guard right now.
He's playing guard.
Andre Dillard. Dillard. Yeah, he can't. But Hall, you alluded to it. Sitting there, Chase Young being with other players. One player in particular that Chase Young kept bringing up was Ryan Kerrigan. And just to let you know how close they are, he even has a nickname for him. He calls him RK. Yeah. So he loves Ryan Kerrigan. He was saying that RK, he's a professional. He's a pro.
He's a dude.
He said that Kerrigan also helps him off the field with things like stretching and how to take care of your body, which I thought was just huge. I mean, that was the first thing Morgan Moses said, that when you're that young, you don't realize how to take care of your body.
And Ryan Kerrigan has been playing forever and rarely hurt.
Right, and he wasn't hurt until this past season. So that just tells you about it. But you talked about it. He called Ryan Kerrigan a dude. And when asked what his definition of a dude was, he said the person must be accountable, take care of responsibilities, no off-field issues, make plays, be a good person. Some other people that he mentioned that are dudes are Ron Rivera, Coach Del Rio, and Urban Meyer, as well as Ryan Kerrigan. So that just goes to show you the type of person Ryan Kerrigan is.
Yeah, and this is the guy that you want Chase Young learning from, because look, Ryan Kerrigan is not as physically gifted as Chase Young is.
Right.
Ryan Kerrigan, once he got to the pros, Ryan Kerrigan had to work really hard to get his sacks. And if Chase Young is learning from Ryan Kerrigan, he's kind of learning the tricks of the trade from somebody who had to do things the hard way. And when you're talking to somebody who can do things the easy way, being able to do it the hard way comes in handy a lot of the time. It's absolutely amazing that he's learning from RK, because that's the perfect person for it. And I think he's 100% right. Ryan Kerrigan is totally a dude.
Yeah, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. Someone that's that talented, they usually kind of skip the steps that it takes them to get to that kind of greatness, elite level. And obviously Ryan Kerrigan is not like elite level, but I would put him in that kind of good to great category where, he's going to average double digit sacks every year, which he has until last year when he was kind of injured or whatever. So yeah, I mean, just to soak up some of that guy's knowledge, and like you said before, like Morgan Moses said, when you're that young, you kind of just, I'm young, I can recover, I can bounce back, I can eat whatever I want. So for him to just have that kind of just acknowledgement in his head already at a young age that I got to eat clean, I got to keep in shape, I got to do this kind of rehab afterwards, I got to get this kind of rub down or whatever the kind of process is that he goes through. Like I said, I mean, we haven't seen somebody like this on our team since I can remember that we've drafted. Like I said, There's been a lot of free agents coming back in the days.
Yeah, and a lot of – oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so, yeah, like I said, I'm just excited to see these next 5 to 10 years with Chase Young.
Yeah, and Chase Young dealing with that hip flexor, he has slowly been working himself back into 11 on 11s. He was working with the second team today. I know that he was in that goal line play yesterday that caused so much chaos on the internet. So, what was some other things that Chase Young said, Reed?
Yeah, we'll get into one more thing from Chase Young before we move on. He had an interview with JP Finley. He talked to JP Finley, and Chase Young was asked about Jack Del Rio. And Chase Young said, I love Coach Del Rio, man. He's one of those, I don't even have the words for it. He's just a real good coach, and I'm excited to play for him. He says Del Rio comes to work every day and gives us motivation when he steps on the field. He's ready. He just lets us know that we need to be ready too. And I just think that was huge because this offseason, I know Jack Del Rio has done some things that have made some people question whether or not he's the man for the job. I'm talking about on Twitter, of course. And I just think it was awesome to see Chase Young be able to put some of that stuff to the side and be able to just talk about how much he loves playing for him, how much respect for him he has, and that he's just the ultimate motivator. You know, Jack Del Rio is a former linebacker. He's a former head coach. So he's kind of the guy that you want leading this unit, and he can get the most out of these guys. And it's just awesome that Chase Young is listening to him and that he really respects him the way that he does.
And I think it's really telling, given with the off season that we have had, where everything is kind of the quarantine kind of off season, where it's a lot of Zoom interviews, for Chase Young to kind of to have that kind of relationship and admiration for Jack Del Rio with very limited amount of physical time with each other. It just speaks so much about the energy and about Jack Del Rio and the kind of coach that he is. So it's amazing to hear that Chase Young loves Jack Del Rio because, like we've said, Von Miller, Khalil Mack, some of the pass rushers that Jack Del Rio have coached, they loved him too. And hopefully Chase Young can be better than all of them.
Yeah, just goes to show, like you said before, they know they're doing the Zoom meetings. They can't really get in person in the beginning. But if you look at Jack Del Rio's track record, like you just said, Von Miller, Khalil Mack, guys like that, he's just enhanced their careers and enhanced their sack totals whenever he's got around them and molded them into great pass rushers. So I think the respect was already there even before they even met, like, face-to-face. Because he was like, if you can kind of turn me into, like, one of those guys or even better, then we're going to have a great relationship. And obviously it helps that you can have just a regular, just great relationship with your coach. So, yeah, I mean, like Reed said, I know everyone was kind of like talking about, we need to get rid of Jack Del Rio because this, that, and the third. And look, like I said on Twitter, I don't really care what your politics are. You can say whatever you want on Twitter as long as you got them boys out there flying, ready to go, and the players are having those kind of backdoor conversations and respect you. And it seems like it does, so I'm all for him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought that was big to hear. That's why I kind of wanted to point out that he did love Jack Del Rio, you know, and that was one of the first things that he talked about was just how much he respects him and how fun it is to play for him. I'm switching up a little bit. We'll get on to Jerron Christian. Christian.
JP's getting hated on Twitter right now, dude.
Is he?
Oh,
Why?
yeah.
What's going on?
Like if you follow like the Washington football team Twitter, it's like JP hasn't been as excited about the good plays that Haskins has done,
Yes.
and is more adamant about the negative plays that he's done.
Right. It's almost like when you get the training camp updates from JP and somebody like Kyle Stackpole or Zach Selby, it's almost like they're watching two different things. It's so funny. It is so funny. That's classic JP.
Yeah.
But we'll move on. Jerron Christian, one thing that was very, I think, interesting that Jerron Christian talked about was consistency. Christian said that his main goal was consistency, regardless of whether it was technique or hand placement. He wanted to make sure his feet and hands are consistent in every play, and he wanted to show coaches that he can be consistent regardless of who he matches up against. He feels there are still some things that he needs to work on, but he feels like he has shown what he can do. And I think, of course, that's huge. He also went on, and we had kind of talked about Adrian Peterson had said that he didn't think that Jerron Christian had really prepared as hard as he possibly could have because he used to work out with Trent Williams and Adrian Peterson during the offseason, and just knowing that Trent Williams was in front of him, that he wasn't going to really get the chance to play too much. So he said this offseason, he knew that he could have the chance to be the starting left tackle and went into it, and it was just killing it. And Jerron Christian talked about that. Jerron Christian said that he this offseason he worked harder than he's ever worked. That's something Coach Savage said. He said that he put in work to get stronger, and I think that we are seeing that, and I think that this coaching staff, especially Ron Rivera, has had nothing negative to say yet about Jaron Christian.
Yeah, that was a very telling quote from Jaron Christian talking about last season, where he just didn't try, essentially, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
So he didn't try at all. And look, I think that was just an organizational thing. It almost seemed like they were on vacation last year. Jay Gruden himself, I feel like, wasn't trying at all, didn't care, wasn't going into an actual trying to change game plans. It just sucks to hear that, but it's refreshing to hear the honesty. Instead of hearing this through the grapevines and leaks and stuff, Jaron Christian's coming out saying, yeah, this is the reality, and look, I've changed it. This is what I'm doing better. And like Morgan Moses said when he was on the pod, when you see the transformation in the body of a player, that's when you know that they are professional now. And that's what we see with Jaron Christian. We see him taking his opportunity as a professional, and he wants to make sure he doesn't let that go. I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, it's kind of like how people have been kind of talking about Dwayne this all season, where it's kind of like you can tell he's kind of put the work in, and people like Rivera and people that have been around him not just gonna kind of just he's been doing this, that, and third, and you can kind of see this. Like everyone said the same thing about Dwayne, where you can tell he's putting in more work, he's more focused. You can kind of tell that like it's his time and he knows it. Same thing with Jaron Christian, where he was like, and the people in the pod, like you said it before, where it's kind of like when you got guys like Morgan Moses who doesn't miss a game. You got guys like Trent Williams who's going to play with a bum knee and a bummed elbow and limp onto the field and still be an all-pro tackle. It's kind of like, I'm here, I'm getting paid, so it's like my time will come, but So for him to actually come out, like you said, to say that is kind of like really refreshing. And he even mentioned Bill Callahan, where Bill Callahan told him like, you have all the talent and ability in the world. It's just about being consistent with it. And like you said, no one's really said he hasn't really had any bad reps that I've seen on Twitter that people have talked about. I know he's been beat a couple of times, but when you're going against guys like Montez Sweat, Chase Young every day, again, iron sharpens iron. So I think that he's going to be prepared to the fullest that he can himself, because he put in the work this offseason, and he's been kind of like you said, the new techniques that the coaching staff has been kind of teaching him. He's been picking those up. So I think people are going to be really surprised with the left side of the line, kind of like last year when people thought, oh my God, Eric Flowers, oh, he's a bum. Oh, Donald Penn, he's so old. But that was the strong side of the line last year. So I think that has a chance to be that side again.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I saw the Washington football team's social media page put out like a highlight video of accumulation, a bunch of videos of today's practice. And one of them was the Steven Sims touchdown, which all the reporters had alluded to on Twitter that it would have been a sack. So if you go back and watch that highlight, Montez Sweat absolutely destroys Cornelius Lucas. I mean, break, just gets around him and would have had Dwayne sacked within a second. It was insane.
Yeah. And another thing that they had posted that I thought was just awesome was an Antonio Gibson run. It was a pretty big run on a delayed handoff, and you see him wait for Jaron Christian to be in front of him and get his man, and Jaron Christian sells it perfectly and gets a nice good block, seals the edge, makes the hole, and Antonio Gibson just hits it and goes. So I thought that was huge to see. Like you said, Hall, we haven't seen many negative plays we haven't heard about it, at least from Jaron Christian. And that goes into getting his chance. Jaron Christian talked about that a lot. He said that he knew at some point his number would be called and he would have to come in here and play. And he just wanted to be ready for when that time came. Well, that time is coming, and he has been practicing with the starters. And Christian has been working mostly with the ones in practice, and he acknowledged that, but he said he's not getting complacent. He's trying to focus on the little things so that he'll be ready whenever he's on the field. And I think that's huge. I mean, like we talked about, he's been the guy so far, I think, practicing mainly with the ones. I know Cornelius Lucas practiced with the ones today, but Jaron Christian has really kind of been the guy standing out. And he's not going to sit there and be like, oh, okay, I got this wrapped up. He's going to keep working, and he's going to put in the work off the field, and it's going to show. And I really like the way, I think where his mind at right now is so much different than where it's been in the last few years, really since he's entered the league. And I just think that you can really see, because this guy does have it all. He has all the ability in the world. That's why he was a 3rd-round pick.
Yep.
It was just going to take some work. And I think right now, like you said, once you see their bodies start transforming, that's when you know that they really grasped it. And I think he has.
Yeah, and look, I've said it this whole offseason. I thought this was Jaron Christian's job to lose.
You did. You called that. Good for you, Kyle.
He finished the end of last season really well, and I'm glad to see that he's continuing to progress through this coaching staff with this team. And look, I'm really happy to hear that he's going to do well at left tackle, but I'm still worried about Sadiq Charles. With that calf strain, we don't know how worrisome it is. And I thought it was very telling that they were out working out guys. As much as everyone wanted to say it was about how bad the offensive line was, I thought it had more to do with about Sadiq Charles, because he was going to be missing some time.
Right.
It's funny, he actually mentioned Sadiq and him being out, and where he's like, again, not going to get complacent and just, it's my job. Like, I got this, because he knows once he gets back, he's going to get out there and be a competitor for that position too. But I mean, he talked about also where he said ever since like Little League football, where he was just always like the guy. He was always the starting left tackle from there all the way through college. So when you get to the NFL, it's kind of just like I said before, where you got guys like Trent, Morgan Mogus, even Ty Secchi when he was here. He was kind of the swing guy in front of Jaron Christian. So he was just like, I didn't really kind of take it seriously, because I kind of I've never figured I'm going to get on the time anytime soon. So for him to kind of realize that like time is now, this is like Ron Rivera mentioned, it was like guys got to take advantage of their opportunities. And I think that he was kind of speaking to Jaron Christian, not like directly, but kind of just, this is your time, this is your chance to become like the guy. You can kind of be the legacy of Chris Samuels, Trent Williams, and then Jaron Christian.
Right.
So opportunities there. He has all the talent in the world to do it. It's just like he said, it's about being consistent. And if you can kind of acknowledge your flaws and what you need to work on, that's a great thing. And him being so young, it's only going to be, hopefully he hasn't hit his ceiling, he'll only get better.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one of those things that's going to make him better, this is the last thing on Jaron Christian, then we'll move on to Ron Rivera. But the last person that we talked about, Chase Young, Jaron Christian was asked about Chase Young. And he said that you can just tell that Chase Young is hungry to be a good player. He's focused, trying to learn and soak up everything he can. And his exact quote was, you can tell he's hungry. He obviously works hard, and you can tell his knowledge. Always around Kerrigan or talking to Sweat a lot, which I just thought goes into what we just talked about, man. That just really shows, it really speaks volumes about who Chase Young is as a person. He's just somebody who just wants to be great and wants to get better. And like Doug said, it was kind of a no-brainer to draft him and bring him here. Like when you think about it, not only because of his production, not only because of his athleticism, but because of who he is. Like he's just that guy. And that's why I think we got one of those generational players, like Doug Williams said.
I also want to acknowledge all those ridiculous fans out there that said we should have drafted Tua, we should draft Tua number 2.
Yeah,
he's sound like he's been mediocre at best in training camp. He's number 3 behind Josh Rosen. So just chew on that, guys. Just chew on that.
Absolutely. Man, I was gonna say something, I completely forgot. Oh my goodness.
When we were talking about Chase Young and how Jaron Christian was talking about how he's always standing near Montez Sweat, Ryan Kerrigan.
Yeah, my bad. So what I was gonna say is the fact that you're hearing that Chase Young is around talking to guys, and I don't want to make this a negative, but when you go back to last season and that Dwayne Haskins picture from the sideline when he's not paying attention and they're doing the QB play, they're looking over the iPad, they're looking over whatever's happening. Look at Chase Young. Teammates already noticing that he's always talking to other guys, trying to get tips, talking about what to do next play. It just shows that he's willing to progress, and it's not a farce. This isn't just him lying to us, just trying to give us a spiel. This is actual Chase Young.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you he's going to be one of those leaders that's going to be probably a team captain, a locker room guy, locker room leader, a face of the franchise, clearly. And just you love everything you hear about him, and I feel like everyone's going to love everything they see about him when they get on the field. And I mean, like I've said it, I'm going to keep saying it until it happens in the flesh. Like this dude is going to be a generational kind of like franchise changing player. And this is what I've been waiting for the whole Washington football / Redskins career of watching football. It's just like that game changer that's going to come on the field and you just be like, wow, that's how you rush the passer. That's
Right.
how it was done. We all thought it was going to be LeVar Arrington back in the day.
Yeah.
Right.
You know how that turned out. Even though he was good while he was here, but
Yeah. LeVar had some good years, but I think you're right. I think it's just completely different with Chase Young. But we'll move on to Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera talked today, and one thing that Ron Rivera has kind of stressed has been tempo. Has been the tempo of the practice.
Yes.
And Rivera said that the biggest area where the team has made strides is that the players are learning to practice at his tempo. However, he did say that they were a little bit mentally fatigued today after 3 straight padded practices, which is, I mean, to be expected. But that is the change. You heard Ron Rivera lay into the guys. I think it was 2 days ago after they practiced decent in the beginning, but they didn't finish strong. And he called out players in particular. He called out Wes Martin, told him that this is his shot. This is his chance. And he was calling people out. He just went on a tirade, a long one, laid into him. Apparently it worked because the last 2 days the players have came out and they have practiced fantastic from start to finish. So I love what Ron Rivera is doing right now.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed and intrigued by the positivity of the offense over the past couple of days. You know, because I thought that this was going to be a theme of all offseason, that the offense was going to get beaten into the ground by this defense. The fact that against this defense, this offense is starting to churn big runs, starting to churn huge touchdown plays. That means that this offense is actually developing at a very rapid rate in a good way. And I'm really happy to hear that because that means against really good competition, they can perform well. And they're going to go against some really good defenses coming very soon within a month, and they're going to have to be able to punch back. And I think that they're proving that they're going to.
Yeah, I'm glad that Doug Williams brought it up where he thinks that this offense is going to come out, is going to surprise a lot of people because we've been saying the same thing, and I've been trying to pound it. Like, I think this offense is going to come out. Everyone thinks they're going to be bottom of the league, and they're going to be bums, and it's going to be the defense that's kind of carrying this team, which the third part is probably true. The defense probably will carry this team. But I don't think the offense is going to be as far behind as everyone thinks they are. I think that we've said it before. We think that Dwayne Haskins will probably be middle of the pack to kind of average this year, which, again, go back 2 years ago when Alex Smith was middle of the pack to average, and they were 6-4 based off the defense. And the defense now is way more talented, in my opinion, on and off the field. And the offense, again, is coming along, but with the no preseason, it kind of helps. And I think that, like I said, I think that they're going to come out and punch people in the face. It's going to be a heavy run game with a lot of Steven Sims. Logan Thomas looks like is emerging as kind of like that guy, the tight end spot, which, again, everyone thought that was going to be a weakness of the team. And it looks like him and Dwayne Haskins are kind of getting that kind of eye-to-eye, like, gelling that you want to see as your safety valve kind of guy, if you want to say that.
Kind of like you and I have. Yeah.
Exactly. You see eye-to-eye. No, so, yeah, I think that, they're going to come out and surprise some people, and it's going to be a very productive and hopefully electrifying offense.
Yeah. And the person running that offense, Dwayne Haskins, Ron Rivera talked about Haskins, and Rivera said one of the biggest things that has stood out about Haskins is his desire to learn and win. He's a tough self-critic, but also knows when to get excited after positive plays. Rivera said it's been fun watching Haskins and the other young players grow. I think that was huge for Rivera to talk about Haskins, specifically his desire to learn and win, because that's something that we all talked about this offseason. That was his biggest question coming out of college. We all knew that he had the ability, the arm talent, the natural talent, but he wasn't experienced, and a lot of people questioned his work ethic. Did he want to be great? Did he want to learn? And I think so far this offseason, Dwayne Haskins has put those things to rest. I think that he's done fantastic, and like you said, he needs developing a rapport with Logan Thomas, who's been fantastic, and this is something that you love to hear from Ron Rivera.
Yeah, and I think it was towards the end of practice, it might have been the ending play of practice, but Dwayne had thrown a pick six. When trying to locate J.D. McKissick in the flat, he threw a late ball that got picked off for a pick six. And what stood out to me is Ron Rivera, J.D. McKissick, and Dwayne Haskins stayed extra after practice to be able to talk about that play, what they did wrong, how to be able to correct it, and the one thing to me was Ron Rivera was honest with Dwayne, and he told him, you were late. You put it in a bad spot. It's not the end of the world. You can correct it, whatever have you. And it was so good to hear that they're getting hands-on learning from somebody who they respect, and it's awesome to see that, like you said, they're willing to work to get better. And that's exactly what Dwayne is showing you.
Yeah, speaking of that pick six, it was picked off by Landon Collins taken back, and
Yeah.
how crazy it is. Crazy is it that Landon Collins is such a great player, could be like a all pro type player, and then like no one's even talking about him because the front seven is just so ridiculous.
Such
a
good point.
Right.
Yeah, he's just like an afterthought at this point, which is
Right.
a great thing because
That's
someone
good.
like that, someone like that can be the cherry on top of a defense that can take him over the top. But I love to see that Dwayne's kind of like you said, putting in that work probably before practice, kind of after practice, getting that rapport with the guys, and someone that wants to be coached and wants to win is a player that you would want in this franchise because we said it before, guys have been kind of like me. It's never been about like the team as a whole. So for Rivera to kind of say he loves what the young guys have been doing, the growth that they've had, I mean, the whole process of building a team is starting with the young guys, keeping those young guys and developing them. So it's been a while since we developed a lot of young guys, a lot of young talent on this team. So I'm excited for the future, and hopefully this coaching staff can pull this team together, and they'll be here for the long haul.
Yeah, and another uplifting quote from Rivera today was he had talked about the progression of the team as a whole. And he said he was actually really impressed and that he was feeling really good about where they were, which to me, like, is amazing to hear that because you would think that, you know, during with the quarantine, the crazy off season, with all of this coronavirus, everything, that everything would be hampered. It would be going slower. The fact that they are, like, Ron is feeling good about where they are speaks volumes.
Yeah, and that's something that I forgot to bring up when we were talking about Ron Rivera's cancer. One of the first things that crossed my mind was these players better be goddamn careful now with this coronavirus because Ron Rivera having this he's got to be considered high risk. Yeah. I mean, even though he's in shape, I know he's still a little bit older, but I mean, having cancer, you know, yeah. I mean, you gotta, so they better be careful, man. It's not a joke at this point. Like, you gotta be safe for Ron.
Yeah. And I said, I'm not sorry to finally bring this up, but the quad pod that we recorded on Sunday with Burrows, the Washington Brawl, and the Redskins addicts, I had alluded to this with Ron Rivera. The Washington football team has a very unique situation in front of them. They have an opportunity to bond over this moment, to fight for this season, like Ron Rivera is fighting back against this cancer, like Alex Smith is fighting back from his leg injury. They can bond over this type of situation, and that family atmosphere that Ron wants so badly can happen very quickly. It all just depends on the players in the building and the leaders in that locker room. Can they rally together and use this situation as a rallying cry, as a way to gel and become one? And I think that there's a huge opportunity here to do so, and they could punch a lot of people in the mouth come week one if it does transform.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Kyle. You took all my points. I was going to compare this to the Chuck Pagano situation in Indianapolis.
There you go.
Good job.
Yeah.
We see eye to eye. You're right.
Me too. I was going to compare this to the Darius Guy situation with his girlfriend. I'm just kidding. You better come punch that. No. But one thing that happened at practice, there's a scary moment at practice today, and that was when Troy Apke and Terry McLaurin had a little bit of a collision. Of course, McLaurin, everybody was holding their breath. McLaurin took his helmet off, went off the field. He did end up coming back, but Ron Rivera talked about that, and he said that the defense needs to give the right of way to the offensive guy. I'll talk to Troy about that later. It's hard to default guys playing hard, but it's a matter of knowing how to play in shells and being aware of who you're playing against. And Troy Apke has been a bit of a surprise amongst Redskins fans about him playing and being with the ones consistently. And Apke, thank you for taking a step forward, and I do want you to be like this during games, but not during practice. Not to our best player.
Apke had
Terry McLaurin.
Apke had one practice yesterday because Logan Thomas lined up as the Wildcat quarterback. They ran a direct run, and Apke actually popped Logan Thomas at the goal line and created a fumble. Troy Apke has done incredibly well. Ron Rivera has brought him up numerous times.
And that's one thing that it's such a far cry from where Apke was, because that was the one thing about him. He was always a very athletic player, but he was somebody who shied away from contact. He was a terrible tackler, and to hear that he's making these things, I mean, it could actually be a good thing. It's just don't ever do that to Terry McLaurin again, Troy, or else I'm going to end up coming to your house at night. And I don't think that you want that to happen, because when I'm not in a good mood and I haven't eaten, I'm not very fun. Okay.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this show. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. Thank you so much, Doug Williams, for
Yes,
gracing
thank
us
you,
with his
Doug.
presence on this podcast.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you so much. That was like by far like one of my top guests we had on here. I mean,
Yep.
Hall of Famer. We had a Hall of Famer on.
Gold jacket, baby. What?
Yeah. We had the first African American to win a Super Bowl. We had a Super Bowl winning quarterback on the show for our favorite team.
Also, he should
Think about
definitely give it that training staff and like the uniform design people, because that burgundy on burgundy scheme.
That's a good idea. That's a
Great
good idea.
idea.
With these helmets, shoo,
That's
Yeah.
what I'm
over.
saying, man.
Absolutely.
Over.
All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I am going to get a working light in here because clearly it's dark as
You're
hell.
just slowly losing Hall like every
I know.
minute that passes by.
And I'm poor and I want all your money. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Mike. And follow
For
me.
anyone that's not watching, Mike Reed just pulled out a knife.
Follow me at Funny Danny. Just so you guys know, this could be next on Thursday should be my last one, but in case anything goes different, this might be my last podcast for a couple weeks, but
Yep.
it might not. I'm planning on for sure Thursday will be, but if this baby gets dropped out of the womb at any moment, you know, I could be
when little baby Reed pops out, you know the hell's gonna pay.
Yeah.
Right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, go like and share us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube, iTunes, Good Pods. You can find us on hopefully iHeartRadio soon, on Google Pods, iTunes, and then YouTube as well.
Spotify.
And Spotify. Make sure you can find us on all of the platforms. However you like to watch podcasts. If you like to listen to it, you like to watch it, you can find us at any disposal. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Washington football. Hey!
Thank you to Doug Williams. Woo!
Hey!
Audio Jungle.